Hello, we're live. This is Writers Uncut. We're having technical difficulties again this week. I'm hoping Cheyenne is going to request to join us. Or actually, I will see if she can join me. It's harder to do a live with two people than just to go live by yourself, which, Instagram, got to get together. So Chewy and I are here right now. Oh, hi. There's Cheyenne. I invited you. So while she's joining us, I'm going to tell you of my most harrowing experience that I just had. I was in and I didn't see him, so I went outside and I walked into a spider web in my hair, and I felt it immediately.
I'm here.
Hello. I'm telling a story of a harrowing experience I just had.
Okay, cool.
And then you can tell me about what happened.
I thought I fixed the problem by getting a new phone, but I didn't.
I think it's Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because I saw that too. Anyway, so I was telling the story. I walked outside to let the dog in, to check on the dog. I didn't, because he wasn't coming when I was calling him, and I don't know where he went, but he's here now, so no worries. Happy ending. But in the meantime, I walked into a spider web, like into my head, and I looked up, and I don't know if you have them where you live, but we have these spiders called orb weavers, and they're like the size of a quarter. They're like,
oh,
no.
And
I looked up, and it was like that far from I walked into its web, so it wasn't that high up, and okay, I'm okay now, but
did you flail?
I was like, ah!
I would have lost my mind.
Oh, it was awful. And so then I ran back in, and I was trying to see if you were on here, and I was checking through my head and jumping around and calling the dog, and it was crazy chaos for a minute, but it's all good. We are here. This is Writers Uncut, typical of our kind of theme. We are uncut, we are live, unfiltered, unedited, having technical difficulties, spider difficulties, but we're so happy to be here with you all and together.
Yes, I was supposed to host it today, and I don't know what happened. I kept trying to go live, and it said you're now live, but all I saw was a black screen on my phone.
Yeah, that's what I saw too.
And I checked to see if it had permission for to access my camera, and of course it does. I've been using Instagram all day. The stories work, but it's not letting me go live. Well, it said I was going live. It wasn't showing anything. So I don't know. And I just got a new phone, so I thought that it would work better than my old phone, but I guess I'm wrong. Anyway,
if anybody techie, tech whiz out there that knows anything about this, let us know, because because that's annoying, because you do have a brand new phone. You go on stories all the time. And you hadn't requested me to come yet, so I was thinking maybe it was because we were trying to do it together, but I don't know.
No, I just got a blank screen, and I tried the little camera switchy thinking maybe it was showing out the back camera, which I should have been able to see my office if it was, but it didn't do anything, so I don't know, but whatever, we'll have to figure that out. Anyway.
Back to the spider story. Eternal Book says, I would have cried. I can't do spiders. Oh my God. Yeah. I was actually tempted to take a picture and bring you guys outside and show you, because it was really, it was real. And Kate says, I had a spider drop in front of my face while I was driving. Terrifying. Oh, that's dangerous. Shame on that spider.
I had that happen once. A spider was on the outside of the windshield, and for a second I thought it was inside. And I panicked, but luckily it wasn't. We would have had a problem if it was inside my car.
Yeah. I can deal with those spindly spiders, those thin ones. I don't care about them, but the big meaty ones,
Yeah, those little tiny baby ones that crawl around the walls, they don't really bother me.
Yeah.
But
all right, so anyway, back on track. Sorry, taking a few little detours.
Because we're uncut.
We're uncut. So today we're going to talk about a couple things, and of course, if you have questions, anything about writing, publishing, spiders, technology, we'll do our best to answer.
Yeah, type them, and we will get to them.
Yes.
Otherwise, you have to listen to our original content, which might not be that fun.
Also, I have a book recommendation today, and so I don't want to forget to share that with you guys. I'm going to keep it where I can see it. So, would you like to read the first question, or shall I?
I'll read it. So our first question is from Matt Voyager. And he asked, it's a broad question, but what is your average start of the writing day and what is your ideal start? Which is a cool, interesting question.
Yeah, I actually like that question. I think it's always so interesting to know what, like, how other authors kind of like a day in the life sort of thing. Like, what do
Hmm.
they do? Like, are they night owls? Are they early birds? So, do you want to answer?
Sure. So, my schedule, I'm a full-time writer, if you didn't know. So, my schedule has really evolved over the years. Back when I had a day job, I did most of my writing in the evening, like before, during, and after dinner time. Now, though, it depends on if it's summer break or if school's in session. Because if school's in session, I wake up at 6:30 in the morning to get my daughter off to school. And then I make coffee and I start writing like really early, around 7:30 in the morning is when I usually start during the week. If it's summer break, then all rules go out the window and I sleep till 10 or 11 and
Oh,
I
I'm so
write
jealous.
whenever. So
So
I
jealous.
yeah, it's really bad. Like I'm not as productive during the summer months because there's nothing forcing me to wake up early. Um, but basically, I get, and I tell Deirdre this all the time, I get my best writing done before noon, like bright and early in the morning. And it's like if something happens, if I have appointments or something to go to, or my husband forgets something and I have to bring it to him at work, you'd be surprised how often that happens. It's like I can't write. If it's after lunchtime, it's like I can't focus. My brain doesn't work. My creativity's gone. So I really prefer to write in the mornings. And I always start my day with coffee, but I don't write while I'm drinking my coffee because, as you probably know, I write on my stationary bike desk.
Yeah.
And I tried it once with the coffee, and it was a really bad idea. So I drink coffee, check emails, kind of hang out for 30 minutes, and then I get to work. And that's, and it says, what is your ideal start? And as we know, I use an outline and I always have a goal. And every time I'm writing any book, I have a deadline goal that I set myself. And my default goal is one chapter a day. So, which can be anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 words ish. So I get on the bike desk and I pedal and I write, and it takes about an hour or two, and then I'm done. And that is my daily schedule. It's kind of simple.
Yeah.
So Eternal Books said, how do you balance a full-time job, school, and writing? I'm losing my mind. Well, you're in luck because losing your mind is like the number one criteria to be a writer. So you're already like halfway there. Do you want to tackle answering that?
I'll answer a little bit. So I'm also currently, I would say maybe like a part-time or three-quarter time writer. And we both have side gigs that we do.
Oh yeah,
Um, yeah, when Cheyenne says that she's a full-time writer, like she does a lot of stuff. So don't, like
that
other
is
days
true. That is
you're
true.
like
Yeah.
you're really busy writing and other things. And actually, before I get to your question or the answer to that as best I can, Eternal Books, I'll say too that there's the writing aspect of it, and whether you're self-published, traditionally published, if you're just an aspiring writer, there's still so much else that goes on besides just like the actual writing, like chapter to chapter. If you're traditionally published, self-published, you're doing a lot of admin stuff, which might include like promotions, marketing. If you're still just purely in the writing phase, maybe you're connecting with other writers online or going to writers groups. Like there's a lot, I think, that we do in the day or the week that is kind of under the umbrella of writing. So segueing into how do you balance it all, you don't. You don't. And some days you do lose your mind. Some days you don't make your goals. Some days you're just like right at it and tackle the thing and you feel awesome. And then the next day you don't even get a word in. I think the trick though is to learn to kind of go with the flow and, see where your day takes you. Sometimes the husband's like, oh, I forgot X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, or the kid, I actually usually, if my husband forgets something, usually I'm pretty good about meeting his request. If one of my kids forgets something, sorry guys, you have to learn your responsibility. Like, I don't know.
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your priorities in the day are really important. Boundaries are also really important. So sometimes the phone goes off. Like if someone calls, they're going to have to wait because I'm at work. And even though I work from home most of the time, that's still work. It's still my work day. And the same way you might not answer, the phone if you're at the office or make calls to get the car repaired or whatever during your work, your working hours. then you kind of follow that same logic. So balancing isn't really possible, I think. It's more going with the flow, prioritizing, setting those boundaries, and we call it laser focus. Like yesterday we both went to laser focus mode. Like we had a task to do in our writing goals that day, and I'm still itchy from spider. And we just, like, Cheyenne and I will email each other throughout the day, and it's like, okay, well, I'm going off the grid for a little while, and I'll see you, when I'm done. We'll chat when we're done. So that kind of maybe helps you out a little bit. Eternal books, I don't know. And then was I supposed to answer something else?
Yes, but I wanted to add something. So for balancing a full-time job, going to school, and writing, I think that's all she said. Yeah. So, not all, as in it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. I was doing that once, like 10 years ago. I was working full-time. I had a 3 to 4-year-old, because she's 14 now, whatever that is. And I was also taking college classes part-time at night. And so it took me 9 months to write my first manuscript back when I was doing all of that. Now it takes me 25 to 30 days. So it is going to take longer. And one thing I did was, and I will tell everybody this, and it sounds really mean and I hate saying it, turn off the TV. Because it's like, there's probably a couple hours in the day where you can watch TV and just kind of veg out, and that's when you have to write, and it sucks and I hate it, but that it is what it is. And then another thing is, I call it wasted time opportunities. Anytime you are wasting time, like if you're stuck waiting on something, doctors waiting, offices, I don't know, anything, traffic, maybe not traffic, but if you are like just kind of killing time for a little while, whether it's 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, be working on your book. And that's where having an AlphaSmart comes in handy. They're only $30 on eBay, or a small laptop or a tablet, or I know a lot of people that write on their phones, and I've done that a few times, although I don't really prefer it. Just always find ways to sneak time out of the day to write, and just kind of know that it will take longer and it does suck, but eventually you'll be done with school, and by then you would have fully lost your mind, so you'll be a full writer by then. So
Join the club.
Yes.
Actually, add something to what you were saying. We could just probably like tag off of each other the whole time, but we've talked about her before, but Susan Dennard just put out a short video in her newsletter about brainstorming, and that kind of prompted me. So writing often looks like sitting at the keyboard or on the desk with the AlphaSmart, or the bike desk with the AlphaSmart, and you're writing your chapters, you're writing your scenes, whatever. But also there's brainstorming, there's kind of coming up and really understanding the background, the backstories to your characters, and exploring that. So maybe you're driving and you need to be paying attention. So obviously you're not going to get out a keyboard and write, but you can be thinking about or having even a conversation with your character. And that's productive time. Like, consider that productive, because you're going deeper, you're learning more about your story, your plot, your characters, maybe some snags you've run into. So that wasted time, as you said, like the kind of waiting in between limbo times that you might have in your life, can be put to good use. So I just heard on a different podcast, one woman, she I think it was Michelle Pennington, maybe, she was saying that she talks out loud to her characters and has conversations with them. So yeah, you might go a little bit insane if you're a writer.
Hey, sometimes talking to your characters is better than talking to real people. So she said, what costs $30? Give me 1 second. I'm going to get it.
Oh yeah. Okay. It's really cool. I have one too. I actually haven't used it as much, but yeah, it's the
AlphaSmart Neo 2.0. You want to get the 2.0. Oops, I turned it on. Not the AlphaSmart 3000 or whatever. This one's the best, the 2.0. Just Google it on, not Google it, eBay it on eBay. They're like $30, $35. I think this one was $25. And it's really cool. It's this handy little thing. They use them in elementary schools to teach kids how to type. And all you do is write on it. If you can see that. It just has text, and that's it. And so they're cheap, so you don't mind taking it around in case you lose or break it. It uses 4 AA batteries, and my batteries last about 9 months. Like, I've only changed these out 2 times, I think. So then they might last longer than that because I've been using it for a few years. And you just
Yeah.
turn it on and you type and that's it. There's no internet, there's no games, there's no distractions. And I just shove it in my purse and I take it with me like my kids' orthodontist appointments or doctor's appointments, or even if you're waiting on like the repair guy to come fix something in the house or something, you know, you can't really be doing much because you're stuck waiting, wasting this time. I will pull this thing out and write it. I'll do it at dance classes or anything where you're just sitting there wasting your time. And so this is actually how I write all of my drafts, is on that thing, because that's how I write so fast. Like I've gotten 4,500 words written in an hour on that thing. That's not typical. Typical is 2,000 words an hour, but I have written that fast because it's just so easy. So get the Alpha Smart. And yeah, they're like $30 on eBay with free shipping, so they're amazing. So anyway, now it's your turn to answer the first question.
I'll just add though, so that anyone who's wondering knows, there's a plug, right? And so you plug it into your computer, and then it uploads the your words onto your computer, your document.
And if you go to my website, CheyenneYoung.com, I was gonna say it might be my profile, it's not. If you go to my website and just click on writer tips, there's some page on there. It's easy to find. I have a real simple website. I've written a whole blog post that details it, and I even have a YouTube video that shows how to use it. So it's really cool. And I don't get paid to promote it. I wish I did.
I think they're all like resales too. I don't think they're like making new ones. So
yeah, they don't make new ones, and I've heard that only schools can order them new because they're made for schools. Yeah.
I was actually just thinking, I'm having some ergonomic stuff. I get pain right here because I'm not set up optimally, and I was just thinking like that. And maybe I'm going to try that. I have one, and I just never use it because I'm so used to my computer. But I can put it where I want it. I can put the keyboard where I want it, and so. Cool. Anyway, yes, my turn to answer the question, and there was a couple other questions in the comments that we'll get to as well. So the question is, what is your average start of the writing day, and what is your ideal start? So my answer is very, very similar. You know, I get up, I do a little exercise, walk the dog, get the kids off to school, like that whole rigmarole. And then I usually like to sit down between 8:30 and 9 because I also find that I'm freshest in the morning. And then I usually go into lunchtime and then take a break. And then in the afternoon, depending on what the day is like or where I'm at in my project, I'll either dive back in. One thing I like to do when I'm kind of getting close to wrapping up for the day of writing, I like to leave off on a scene or like write a few notes so that if I do get the opportunity later on in the day, say, before dinner, after dinner, in the evening, and I'm feeling inspired, or I have like a chunk of time where I know I'm going to be uninterrupted, instead of watching TV, like you were saying, I can jump right back in where I left off and kind of have it still semi-fresh. Like I leave myself some prompts so I know where I was in the scene or in the story, so I don't have to go back and read. And so yeah, I try and reserve the morning. I think my mind is probably the most creative. Like there has, someone asked, how do you find motivation to write when the world is a dumpster fire? Like all of that hasn't kind of seeped in yet in the morning. And then the other part of the question is, and what is your ideal start? I'm not really sure. You answered like, how do you like to start? Just having like a little outline or something.
I think it means like, how do we actually start typing? I have my outline, or like what you said, sometimes when I finish a chapter, I'll begin the next chapter and I'll write the first sentence or two. Sometimes I leave it halfway through a sentence or just a line of dialogue, and it prompts you to start writing. Or you can read over the last few paragraphs you wrote and it will like get you back in the zone. So that's how I start writing. And it's usually, it's a skill I've developed because I never really want to start writing. Like it's so rare that I actually want to sit down and write. It's like I don't want to do it. So you just have to force yourself to do it because the end result is totally worth it.
I find it's less that, for me, it's less that I don't want to write, but I have like this moment where like it's almost like my mind is wiped blank. I'm like, wait, do I even know how to type? Like I forget how to do this. Like what do I do? How do I start? And my little trick for that is just don't think about it. Put your fingers on the keyboard, and even if you're just writing ASDF, 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 just start writing. And sometimes there's like that little, like it's almost like you're crossing into another part of your brain, and it's like, okay, how do I get from here to there? Whether you've been dealing with your family or school or work or whatever, it's like, disconnect from that and tap into the creative side? And so sometimes it's just a matter of like putting the fingers on the keyboard and going. So yeah, so great question. And if anybody has any others, leave them in the comments, or you can always, ask us, just DM us or whatever, and we can answer them in future lives. But I think we have a couple here. How do you find motivation to write when the world is a dumpster fire?
So that's from Jen, who's a fellow Texan. So let me just say, I feel your pain. I feel it so much. Last night was really disappointing for most Texans, although apparently not most Texans. This is a really important question to me because I say it all the time. Like, writing is so mental. And if I'm just having a bad day or something's annoying me in any aspect of my life, I don't really get any writing done. It's really hard. It's really hard to shut down. So I think one of the best things to do is to start writing for the day before you've got on Twitter or social media or check the news. Like, kind of just block it out and avoid it and start writing without thinking about it, because the world is a dumpster fire in many ways right now. And it's funny because I feel like writing's often romanticized, and people talk about like you just forget the world and you write in your own magic universe. And it's never been like that for me. I mean, very rarely. It's like I'm thinking about everything else in life when I'm trying to write. And it's really hard to shut out everything. And like Deirdre said, the best thing you can do is just start writing. Even if it's terrible, just start writing and try to let your mind focus on that. And just don't watch the news. I don't know. I don't know. It sucks.
I have a two-part answer to this. Like, on the one hand, we can't ignore what's going on in the world. We're part of it. We're part of this global community or Texas community or whatever it is that's going on. And so, there's that tug to like be involved and everything. But I think we kind of owe to ourselves and actually the world, depending on whatever our gift is, whether it's writing or something else, to kind of go there first in the day before we get sucked into, because a lot of times, especially on Twitter, it can just kind of just be noise, and it's not really a productive conversation. And it
really is noise.
Yeah, you don't walk away feeling good. You don't feel like
it's toxic.
We're not understanding each other. And so, as a creative person, I would say do not go on your phone first thing in the morning. Maybe check your emails or something, because a lot of times that's not like so volatile. But go to your creativity first, feed that. And oftentimes when you come away from that and then you do step back into real life, you might find, get ahead of it. You might find even like your contribution is more productive, like whatever you have to say is or you're less affected by people's, bad attitudes. And then the other thing I'll say, kind of talking to what you were saying, Shan, is I do find writing is an escape for me. I actually have written a little bit on my blog about writing and anxiety. It's kind of like when I do get swept up into the things of the world or the things in my mind, writing is my escape. And I think one thing that I've found is really helpful, aside from writing, to kind of tap into the moment and not get caught up in all the worryings, the worry and the worrying and like the law in my head, is meditation. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I meditate every day, because I don't. But kind of getting grounded in the present is really helpful. And I know for some people that's like woo woo and it's like, oh, whatever. But when you're able to kind of clear your mind, and even if it's just for 30 seconds or a minute, that's something. And ultimately it's better for you to have access to that, because it's when we do get swept up in repetitive thoughts and kind of like worrying about all these things that we can't really affect, we can't really have an impact on them like in that moment. It takes away from like what we're going to offer, what we're going to pour into our writing, our creativity, all of that. So I've trained myself to just take like a 30-second, like if I find my mind wandering, which sometimes like legitimately there's things that need to be attended to, and I'm like, I'm forcing it at my computer. But when that's not the case, I try and just take like a deep breath and come into the moment and get into it, get into the work in progress or whatever it is I'm doing. So yeah, Headspace is so good. I don't like the guy's voice, but it's a nice way to kind of hold yourself accountable to doing that. So that's a good one. Yeah.
You can also use your rage at the world to channel that into your writing.
Yeah.
Which I kind of have to take a step back. I can't do it in the moment, but you can use it to plan and put this stuff in your books, because as writers, that's what we can offer the world, is like a hopeful, alternative to the real world.
My pirate book was a lot about me raging at the rage. Okay, so anyone else have other questions? I don't see any others, but I know there's like a little delay on here. So if you guys don't have any other questions, I will share my book recommendation. Oh, thanks for all the love hearts. Ooh, I like it. All right, so it is November. Are we ready? Are we ready for my recommendations? Did you have anything else to say?
Yes. My husband just texted me, so I was texting him back.
Okay. All right, so here we go. It's November, and every November I have a little tradition with myself. I realize I'm blending in with the wall. I have a body. Every November I read Maggie Steve Otter's The Scorpio Races. I know it's backwards on your screen, but this is a little tradition I have with myself. And this one is actually signed. I'll show you. She has a really awesome signature. I saw her a long time ago, actually in New Hampshire. And it's actually written to my daughter, but this is my copy. And the first line in this book is like blam. It is the first day of November, and so today someone will die. Like, oh my gosh.
I love it. I haven't read that book.
Hardcore, but it's a lovely, beautiful story, and it is about water horses, Kapelushka, and it's fantasy, but rooted in kind of a I would say like an Ireland type part of the world. I think it's a fictitious island, but and it's about a girl who has to ride in a horse race, which I know like it. I'm not really doing it justice, because to me, if I heard someone saying that, I'd be like, what? But there are killer water horses. There's a girl girls typically are not allowed to ride in this race, and she is really intrepid and really amazing, and gets a horse and kind of shows up a lot of people, and in the process kind of falls in love with a cute boy. And there's a lot of danger and mystery and magic on this island, and I love this book. And there's something in this book called November cakes, which every time I read about them, my mouth waters, because I wish I could make one and eat it, because it's all syrupy and gooey and cinnamony and yummy. So that's my book recommendation, The Scorpio Races by Maggie Steve Otter. I always want to say Steve Vader, like Darth Vader, but that's
that is not how I pronounce it in my head. I do not say her name out loud.
Yeah. So it's a nice autumny. It's like it's a little bit like there's a little spooky eeriness to it, this sort of otherworldly, but it's also very much like in a familiar world as well. So I really love it. So
cool.
Check it out. And anyway, so we'll be back next Wednesday.
Were we going to mention NaNoWriMo?
Oh, want to save it for next week, or you can? Yeah,
we can say we can. Yeah. But I wore my Nano shirt.
Oh, yay!
And it's like 85 degrees outside here, so yeah. Okay, so we will talk about Nano next week.
Yeah, we can talk about it now. I'm good.
Okay.
If you want to, we can talk about it next week too.
So, I was going to say, because we had just mentioned we might talk about it in our outline. I'm not sure. We could ask people for questions and then address it next week.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's say next week, questions about NaNoWriMo. If you don't know what that is, it's National Novel Writing Month, and it's kind of like it's not a competition, but it's like an event, an online event, and there's some in-person meetups and things like that, where the challenge is to write a 50,000-word novel in a month. And people create community around it, around different genres they're writing, locations, all kinds of things. And it's for people who are brand new to writing. It's for seasoned writers. I've done it numerous times. You've done it numerous numerous times to the point where you have a sweatshirt.
This
It's
thing's
really
like
fun.
7 years old. I wear it every winter.
Can you tell us which book you wrote when you got that sweatshirt?
Honestly, no. This was a gift. Someone bought it for me for my birthday.
Oh, nice.
Because I was so heavily invested in NaNoWriMo.
Yeah.
I actually, believe it or not, have never, all of the books I've written for Nano, I've never published or pursued publishing. They were all just fun projects that I did for
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
So, and they'll never see the light of day. But I really credit Nano with teaching me to write fast because now, and I started, it was like 2004 or 5 or so that I started it.
Wow.
And it felt so hard to get 50,000 words. It seemed like this impossible task because it works out to 1,600 words a day. And I was like, there's no way I can do this. And then year after year, I got better and better. It took me a couple of years before I won it by writing the 50,000 words. And now that's my jam. You know, I write 50,000 words in a couple weeks now. And I truly think that participating in Nano is what got me to that point. So it's really great if you're wanting to learn to write faster.
And be disciplined, and it's kind of like a writing boot camp almost. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and you're cheering each other on. Like it's not. I mean, it's scary, especially if you're new to it. You know, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. What? In November, which in the United States is like a very busy month.
It's both
Some
of our
people have,
birthday months.
yeah, I was going to say some people have birthdays. There's a few holidays. But yeah, it's really fun. So if you have questions about Nano or questions about learning how to write fast, draft fast, anything like that, I think I've done it maybe 4 or 5 times. And you've obviously been doing it for like probably since they started it.
I came in a couple years late. It's been around a long time.
Yeah. So if you have any questions about that, definitely, why don't we plan on that as a theme for next week? And I think that'd be fun.
Yep. Send in your questions.
Yeah.
Find us on Facebook, the Writers Uncut Facebook group, and find us on YouTube, which I've had a lot of people tell me they watch these episodes on YouTube, so that's really exciting.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and if you do join us on YouTube, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and also so we can selfishly, but really it's for you, so we can get the URL extension Writers Uncut instead of like GPQ932 or whatever it is.
Yeah. YouTube makes you have 100 subscribers before you can have a customized URL. So it's like, how are people going to subscribe if they can't find it because we don't have a URL? So if you could just subscribe just to help us out and subscribe on all of your different accounts like I already did myself just to help us out, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll do that too. So we are Writers Uncut. We are spontaneous, uncut. Apparently next week we're going to talk about NaNoWriMo, which I'm actually excited about. And if you have any other questions about writing, publishing, promotion, all that good stuff, let us know.
And thanks for joining us.
Yes. Thank you all for joining us.
Hold on, wait a second. I see R.R. Boren just joined us, and I've got her book right here. I just wanted to give her.
I love the cover.
I know, it's gorgeous. It's so pretty.
Yeah. I can't
Called
read
Mayday.
A Gray Witch
Novel.
Ooh,
Good job at reading backwards. Anyway, all right.
All right. So we'll see you guys next week. 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon time, Atlantic,
Eastern.
Texas.
11 o'clock Texas time. Yeah, Texas has 2 time zones, but we won't worry about the other time zone. 11 o'clock my Texas time zone.
Sorry, Patricia. All right. Well, tell your friends about what we're doing here. We have a writers group where we can continue the conversation. It's on Facebook / Writers Uncut, of course, on YouTube. And we love you guys, and thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.